Welcome back to another segment of Tips from the Pros brought to you by an Investor's Journey podcast and Prime Homes. So, our mission here is to make sure that all of our members in our community are doing real estate investing the right way. So, what does that look like? Well, I'm glad you asked. What that looks like is you doing what needs to be done by listening to the people that have done it the right way, people that have built successful businesses over the years doing this the right way. And that takes me to introducing this week's guest. So, this week's guest, I'm actually very excited to speak to because he's a person that I've been impressed with since I've heard his name. Um, Everything I've heard of the guy was always really well. Very, very, very good stuff. So let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a former engineer turned real estate investor, has been investing for nearly 3 decades since 92, has purchased over 450 houses, has borrowed over $29 million, and paid it back. That is a very important tip that many of you do not understand. That money needs to go back. He is known for structuring very creative deals, has an intense focus on maximizing return on every deal, and creating cash now, cash flow, and cash later opportunities within this space. He has a large portfolio of flips, buy and holds, and owner finances. And the best thing that I like about him is his philosophy is based on focus, on integrity, and on treating people the right way. So, talk about investing the right way, treating people the right way is a big, big part of that. So, with that being said, I would love to introduce you guys to Steve Carlson. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, John. Thanks for that intro. It was really nice. Glad to be here. I know you've got a great show here. I love it. I watch almost every episode. Can't say I've seen them all, but you do some good stuff. You put out some fabulous content that is very, very valuable to the community, not just in San Antonio, but nationwide, really. So it's really, really quality stuff you put out. So I'm humbled and happy to be here. Hopefully, I can add a little bit of what I know and help your audience out and see what maybe change a life here. Who
Oh,
knows?
exactly. That's exactly what we're doing this for. I mean, you're not getting paid to be on here, so it's definitely because you want to give back to the community.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, is what I was saying at the beginning was very true. I've heard about you since I've almost been in real estate 7 years here in San Antonio, and I've always heard about you, but I never really met you until we met at that talk that we did at the
Mhm.
Alamo. But everything I heard from you about you from people that have been in the business for decades, and there are people that are very highly respected, has always been good stuff. And that to me was very impressive because I don't hear a lot. I always hear like, "Hey, this guy's good, but watch out with this," yeah, he's good, but he kind of screwed me over on this other deal. It's always
Yeah.
been followed by a "be careful, watch out," and all of this. But with you, it's never been that. It's like Steve's a great guy, very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable has been thrown out a ton of times. So it's great on your part that you're doing a really good business, and it shows why you've been in business for nearly 3 decades. So, you
Yeah.
know, great job and keep up the great work.
Thanks,
Um,
sir.
so I wanted to kind of start off by seeing what was it, and to my understanding, engineers are not really people that are starving. So, what is it that made you go from an engineer to a real estate investor? What called you into this space?
Oh gosh, I'm kind of an introvert by nature, right? And so, and I'm humble by nature too. I don't do a lot of bragging. I don't toot my own horn. And so when I got out of college, I didn't do great in college. I think I had a 2.7 GPA, made the dean's list once, so it wasn't high on the list. I had to work hard. Gosh, I remember one week studying for 48 hours for one single test. 48 hours I studied, and I still made less than 60 on the test. It was tough. And then when I get into the real work world, with real engineers doing real engineer work, I thought for a while, man, I just can't do this the rest of my life. These are cool people. They were really impressive, smart guys. They talked smart, and they did incredibly smart stuff. And I was this brand new engineer that got through college by sheer grit, and I was struggling to find my passion there and find a reason to stay long term. My boss took me to the side. He said, after 6 months, I was there 6 months. He said, Steve, if you don't change something in your life and what you're doing, you're going to have a nervous breakdown. And he was right. And it was serious, and I was struggling. So I pulled out I was talking about this to one of my cube mates, and he gave me a book. It was called, might even be here on my shelf, The Magic of Thinking Big. And it's an old classic self-help, self-improvement book, whatever you want to call it. And I just ate it up. I'd never read anything like it. It was phenomenal stuff. A lot of wealth generating ideas, thinking big and beyond what my small mind was capable of thinking of at the time. And then I read another book after that, another old classic. And both of those books had getting wealthy through real estate investing. Both those books did. And so I started reading other books like that, and all of them had wealth, undertones of wealth through real estate. And so that's when I started my path. I graduated college in 1992. Being an engineer, it took me a while to get going. Bought my first house in 2 years later, I think it was. And because it took me a while to be able to pull the trigger. And then I got distracted. We did a few rental properties, a few flips in the early 90s, and I got distracted by other things, getting the entrepreneurial bug and being presented with other entrepreneurial opportunities. I got distracted and taken away from real estate for a period of time until about 1997, 1998, when that old classic Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out and just changed the trajectory. And so that's when I really hunkered down and really focused on it, I think, on real estate, but had a lot of things getting in the way of being massively successful. And replacing a $100,000 a year job is not easy before you quit. And I had a family to support, and I wasn't just going to jump off and go full time into this. I had a partner that I had, a wife that I couldn't just do what I wanted to do. I had to work with her through this process, and she wasn't as gung ho about real estate as I was. So it took a while to be able to replace that job income, but we did it, and
Here we are.
with a lot of struggles and a lot of challenges, a lot of failures, so anyway.
Very nice. And so when you got started in real estate, what was it that really helped you get going? Was it, you got education? Did you pick up some books on real estate? Did you have a mentor? Did
Mm.
you buy some infomercial training or something? Like, what was it that helped you?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. When I first started, my mentor was a realtor, and his dad. It was my realtor buddy and his dad. They were both successful. His dad was a successful investor, and he was a successful realtor. So Jack Rady out of Austin, and him and I did a bunch of deals, a bunch of little flips, and some stuff in the 90s, and then when I really got cranking in the I say cranking, but I wasn't doing a lot. It was 5 to 10 deals a year, working a full-time job. Then yes, I did have mentors. A lot of online learning. The late 90s, the internet was coming into play, and so a lot of online learning. And then Ron LeGrand was big in the education space at that time.
Yep.
Still kind of is, but I mean, he was the guy back then. So I learned a lot from Ron LeGrand. Some of my foundational information is from Ron. Multiple offer strategy.
Hmm.
I learned from Ron LeGrand, and then some of his proteges learned subject to investing, and then some others I learned creative deal structuring. And so, absolutely, you got to learn from those people that have already been there, even if and paying for it is the right way to do it, in my opinion, because you get what you. I mean, I had mentors that I didn't have to pay for,
Hmm.
and they were great and some fantastic relationships, but they're not mentors that I can call on at the moment's notice to ask a difficult question or get help with the scenario. So I've always paid for coaching and for mentors. Matter of fact, I've paid probably $20,000 to $30,000 a year in education and mentorship almost every year for a long, long, long time.
Wow. Wow. I've always kind of talk bad about gurus and stuff because it's
Mm-hmm.
just so many that I see are just taking advantage of people's need and hunger for wanting to do something else. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I've learned to appreciate the value of, when somebody that's not doing that, trying to just take advantage of people and actually puts together some excellent training. Um,
Yeah,
I've learned the value of that because it's such a big shortcut in your
exactly.
life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it cuts the learning curve tremendously. It's something that it's just it took me a minute to really learn it. I've always been very like kind of self-made in a way. Like I like to learn by just smacking the same wall a few times.
Yeah,
But
that's not a bad way to learn, but it can be expensive and time and
yeah, and
take
very
a little more
painful.
time.
But yeah, I mean, I think having the right mentor and even paying for the right education is definitely crucial in this. So when you were getting started, you had all this. What was it? What was your biggest challenge when you guys started? What was something that was just took you a while to get over?
Man, I would go to lunch with one of my friendly competitors, and every time I would talk to him, Frank Johnson, Danny Johnson's dad, actually. Um, I'd say, Frank, where are you getting your money? And I always wanted to know about the money. Where was the money coming from? That was my biggest struggle in the beginning was the money. Where do you get the money? And so I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into raising private money. And today we've got about I don't know 10 or 15 million at our fingertips of very very private money. And so that's really one of the major um, uh, uh, tools, I guess, that we have is the access to money on my terms. Now, I'm
Hmm.
not talking about hard money. I'm talking about private money that we teach them what investing is about. And these are people that would normally have a CD or money in a money market or potentially an IRA, and we give them a return that's 5 to 6 times greater than what they're making in a CD or in a money market. I got one investor. I called him up a little while back. I said, Mr. Luckett, I need some about 150 grand for this deal we're putting together. And he says, well, let me go cash out one of my CDs and I'll get you, I'll get it, I'll get it, I'll get you some money. So he cashed out a CD, took that early penalty to put his money to work with us, just because it's such a better return for him.
Well, I'm sure he's still getting that money back and then some.
Oh yeah, yeah,
We actually
yes.
have a question in right now from John Barr. I don't know if you know the guy.
John Barr. Oh yeah.
Yeah. How do you go about vetting and finding education that you spend that much per year on?
Uh, I, like everything else that we do in this business, we ask questions. We learn from other people, right? So even being an introvert that I am, I do like networking with folks. I like talking about ideas. I like talking about deals. So when I hear or when I'm looking for something, I ask people. I ask my network. So a good mentor buddy of mine, Gary Boomershine, uh, and I were talking a couple of years ago about my masterminds, and so he invited me into a mastermind that he was involved of. So I kind of vetted it through him, and I asked, and that's basically how I've been introduced to all the masterminds that I'm a part of, is through other people and asking questions. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and another thing is, where's my need, right? If I have a need to raise private money, I will search around for the educators that are the best in that space right now. I think we got, as a matter of fact, Al Moria's got um, a private money guy coming in,
Yeah,
or did
Alan
he just come
Cowgill.
in? Alan Cowgill. I went to Alan Cowgill's deal about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff,
I
excellent
I
stuff.
hear a lot of great things about that guy.
Yeah.
Especially from people that've been in this quite a while. They all say the same thing. They're like, "Yeah, I learned everything
Mhm.
about money from him." So,
Yep. Yep.
that's good to know. But actually, you hit on this point. I wanted to kind of just get your thoughts on it. It's a common thread that I see continuously from everybody in the business, and it's been crucial for us. I mean, it's the only reason we are still in business is the value and the power of your network, right? Like
Mhm.
how valuable it is to not just grow but maintain and preserve those relationships. I mean, how crucial was that for you and your business as you grew your business?
All it's clearly vital. This is not a this is real estate is a team sport, and um, so it's absolutely critical. And for some people it's super simple, but for maintaining relationships, for me, is not. I have to consciously get on. I think, hey, I need to call Mike or I need to call Bill, and get on those phones and nurture those relationships. It is not something that just happens naturally, always for everybody. Some people it does. For me, it's a little bit more of a struggle. But nurturing those relationships, providing value, right?
Yeah.
Um, I was reminded that of the other day. I asked a question to a friend of mine. He didn't respond. And I'm like, I wonder what the deal is here. And I saw later on he posted something about lead with value. I'm like, oh my gosh, how stupid of me to not have given something, this guy's opinion that I value tremendously. I just asked him a question without giving him value. So provide value, and you will receive in return, no
Uh,
doubt about it.
and that's so crucial, and something that many don't understand is, a lot of people are just take, and they're like, but how can I get access to somebody? I'm like, provide them value too. It's not about you, like
That's right.
it's
Mm-hmm.
people's times, it's people's resources, decades of their experience that you're asking for, and now you're just trying to like leech off of people. Like nobody likes that. We all have a lot of things going on. It turns people
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people call me up throughout the years and say, "Hey, you want to go have lunch?" I'm like, "Well, I'm really super busy." But if somebody says, "Hey, I got these 150 leads that I don't know what to do with," I'm like, "Well, let's go have lunch.
Yes. I always
Let's
tell
help each
people,
other out here. How can we help each other out?"
yeah.
And I hope that's not selfish. It's just, certainly there's people that we help without anything in return, no doubt about it. But it can't happen on a regular basis.
I mean, I always tell people every time they say, "Hey, can I buy you lunch?" It's like, look, man. Luckily, I can afford my own lunch. Like,
Yeah,
what do you need? What can we
yeah.
do? What can I help you with? Sometimes even an email is nicer because it's on my time that I can respond back to you, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
not, going out to a 2 hour long lunch so you can just like try to download as much information as you can. Or it's like,
Mhm.
you got to be more protective of my time as well because I got to protect my time, right? My business, I
Uh,
leave for too long, my business hurts. I mean, you know
yeah,
that too, right? Like you can't leave
yeah,
your business. You work for your business too.
absolutely. And the time is the one thing we can absolutely never get back. We can get back money. We lose money. I lose money more frequently than I want to admit. But you can always get money back, right? You can lose friends as much as it hurts, but you can always get friends back, more friends. But you can never. I don't care what you do. You cannot do. You get your time back, so you got to protect it with all you got.
Agreed. So, through the years, you started off real estate investing, and how has your business evolved? So, what did you start off doing? Were you doing mostly wholesale deals and flips? And how has it evolved to where you are right now? Like, what does that look like?
Good question, John. I tell you, this is really powerful for me. It was incredibly powerful, and I hope people hear this because it will, I believe, resonate if you internalize it. I started out in the business like most people. I needed cash. I wanted cash, cash. And so we started out flipping. And when I was regularly buying 5 to 10 houses a year, it was flipping, fixing up and reselling. And did that for a while. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is another job. And there's nothing recurring. There's no recurring income on a flip. It's a once and done deal. You do the work and you get paid, right? And I'm like, gosh, I have a job. I need more passive income. So then I started buying some rental properties, and after getting about 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 rental properties, I don't know what it was, I started to see a pattern in my rental properties, and the pattern was these things were leveraged because I didn't have cash to buy them. They were leveraged, and they didn't make any freaking cash flow. They didn't make significant cash flow. And if we didn't buy them right, if we bought old turds and put them into the rental portfolio, we'd have a breakdown. We'd have to put in a new air conditioner. There's $5,000, and there goes your income for 2 years sometimes on a leveraged real estate deal. So uh, leveraged rental properties do not make a lot of money. They do, once you get there to volume and scale, they can start making some money. But at lower volumes and lower scale, they don't make a lot of money when there's debt on them. You pay them off, and oh my gosh, the income goes through the roof. So I was looking around and networking, talking to people. My buddy Frank, for example, was a great example. Him and his partner, what they were doing primarily, they were fixing and flipping, but they were for cash now, fix and flip for cash now. Rental properties is for cash later, right? That's when they pay off. There's a whole bunch of equity for to sell them and get cash, or there's cash flow later from those rental properties. Cash flow today's cash flow comes from owner finance notes. And what I love, what is the beauty of where we are here in San Antonio, Texas, matter of fact, most of the Midwest, is we can buy houses really, really cheap, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And we can sell them for about double what we pay for them on payments. So we're buying these $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 houses and selling them for $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 on payments without doing very much to them. We'd like to protect them. Make sure there's a good roof on there. The skin is protected. Is the paint job is in good shape. So in case we do get them back in 10 years, they're not rotted away. So we sell a house to an end buyer who wants to own a property. And so those cheaper houses, those lower end houses, where people want to own, but and I don't want to rent in those neighborhoods, but there are people that want to buy. We buy them with cash or with private money, and if we buy them with private money, we wrap them with an owner financed lien. So our buyer is coming in with $7,000 or $8,000 down payment, and we're selling them a house for, call it $70,000 or $80,000 that we paid 40 for or something around that number. And so the margins on those are absolutely phenomenal, and they cash flow really, really well.
And that's what you're focusing on right now is owner finance?
Those are the owner financed houses. Yep. Those are call it 3 pillars: for flipping for cash now, owner finance for cash flow, because we can walk away. Those things are still going to cash flow. And then rental properties for cash later when they're leveraged, when they're debt free and cash flowing well.
You know, what's funny is that you're the first person I ever heard say cash flow and not talk about the rentals being the cash flow. You know, and I see why you're using that perspective, and I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, you're sort of cash flowing, but you're not until that house is paid off, and then you're
Mhm.
really cash flowing.
Not a lot. You're not going to cash flow a lot. And think about it, man. Yes, you can put a 5% 30-year note on a property, and you're going to be indebted to that bank for 30 years and making a little bit of cash flow along the way. If you're 40 years old, 30 years old today, I don't know how old you are, John. You look all the 30.
Yeah.
But do you want to be? Do you want to be a slave to a bank 28 years from now? Still,
Right. No, that
I
makes
mean, you get
sense.
a ton of equity, but you still got a payment. And if you miss a few payments, something happens along the way. Boom, the bank's going to take it.
Now, the argument I always hear about that is the being able to leverage and use that leverage, that cash, to pick up even
Mm-hmm.
more properties, right? And
Sure.
then you
Mm-hmm.
leverage those, and then you pick up more houses where they're like, overall, you own a lot more houses. Yes, you're going to be very heavily leveraged across the
Yeah.
board.
Yeah. Right.
That's something that, you know, we had a conversation with Sam Madrid, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't like that at all. He's like, I'm not a fan of leverage.
Yeah.
But that's how a lot of people look at it. They're like, you know, if they can pull out, you know, 85, 90% of the house, they will. You know, the most they can
Mm-hmm.
pull out, the more they want it. So, like,
Yeah.
what's your advice, I guess, to people that think that way, or your point of view?
Man, again, it's a balance. I think for if you need cash today, flip some houses. All right. If you want cash flow today, then you got to have some owner finance notes. Right? If you want to create a retirement fund, create leveraged real estate portfolio. I want all three, and so I do a mixture. And there's several reasons we do a mixture because not every house fits into every bucket. There's the big think of it as three different buckets. You got a cash now bucket, you got a cash flow bucket, and you got a rental property bucket. But let's get into the buckets here in a minute. But let me talk a little bit more about the leverage piece. I'm totally for leverage, 100% in the right environment. I am not for being leveraged for 30 years. I am not. I want to get out of debt as soon as possible because then you have true freedom. If you're in debt 20, 25 years from now, you got 80 leveraged rental properties, 80 of them leveraged, and they're all leveraged, and you can't go on vacation.
Right.
You got to be here working it. If you go to Europe for 4 months, if shit hits the fan, excuse my French, you got to come back. You got to cut your vacation short and come back.
Right.
If I have 80 free and clear and half of them go empty, yeah, it's going to hurt, but I don't have to shut my vacation short. So I want to get them puppies paid off as fast as possible. Now, but I do like cash now, so I'm gonna flip some houses. And again, to the buckets. Not every house is ideal for every bucket. Not every house is a good owner finance deal. And here in San Antonio, we have the cheap stuff. We have the sub $100,000 houses that are hard to manage from a rental standpoint, right? Rental, it's hard to manage those if there are tenants in them. Tenants are horrible in the sub $100,000 price points. For me, I can't manage them. I don't want to. I've tried. One of the worst experiences I ever had was a duplex that was like a $500 a month duplex. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. Um, so, gosh, where was I going? So every house fits into a bus. So sub $100,000 houses, there are people that want to own those, really, really, really want to own those, and are good buyers. They're really, really good buyers for them. So we put the sub $100,000 deals into. Now I could wholesale them for some cash now, right? If I got a house under contract that's retail worth 80 grand and we pick it up for 40, can I wholesale that for 45
Right.
or for $5,000 spread
Yep.
all day long,
Yep.
right? All day
100%.
long, maybe even 7, right? But if I sell that on terms, John, I'm going to make close to $100,000, maybe even a little bit more than $100,000 if I sell it on terms.
Wow.
And I probably should have prepared it out and whiteboarded it all out. But I've got a dozen examples of how we do that. And if you invite me back again, maybe we will whiteboard it out.
Yeah,
I'll show
definitely.
you some slides. But basically, you got a private money lender loan on that deal at 8% or whatever you're borrowing at. If you've done it for a while and created good lenders, you're going to be borrowing at 8% or less.
Hmm.
That's what we do. And so um, so yeah, we make 100 grand on those little things. The properties that are between 100 and $150,000 in value, roughly. I mean, I'm being given a range here. We'll stretch it out a little bit. Sometimes we'll go lower, sometimes we'll go higher. Those make great rental properties. You have working class tenants in them that have a pride of ownership. They care about the house. They care about where they live. They care about their community. They care about their neighbors. They take care of the yard. They take care of the house. They're just great tenants to have. I think one of our last tenants just she moved out from a house that we bought in I think 2010. I think we bought it in 2010. She had been there. She had lived there almost 10 years. The only thing we did to that house was we remodeled the first time. We completely fixed it up, but we didn't replace the air conditioner because it was relatively new when we bought it.
Hmm.
The only thing we did to that house in those 10 years was fix the air conditioner, replace it. And so she took really, really good care of that house. We had to carpet and paint it when she left, but you're going to have to do that on a 2-year tenant also, possibly. So love those tenants in the $100,000 to $150,000 price point, and the margins are fantastic. I mean, those are $1,000 to $1,500 a month rentals, right? You still got your 1% rule go into effect that works. Now, if you get above $150,000, your rental margins get skinnied up. All right, you're not going to a $200,000 house is not going to rent for $2,000 a month.
Right.
It's going to rent for $1,700 a month, right?
Yep.
So your margins are dwindled or shortened, are reduced, I guess, on the 150 plus properties, and so we don't really rent those. And oftentimes they're very large, and that's the other thing on a rental property. I don't like renting 2,000 square foot houses. They just cost too much to turn when the tenants
Right.
move out. So those larger houses that are worth 150 or more, we fix them and resell them, and that's for the cash now.
Right. Okay. Man, I'm over here taking notes. I was like, this is some good information. Um, so
It's a beautiful business when done right. I mean, you could wholesale for a
yes.
long, long time and rake on some cash, but you can't quit. I could quit tomorrow and have consistent income for a long time.
And I mean that's the transition that we're kind of making with John. We started wholesaling and then we got really big into fix and flips and now we're starting to transition into buy and holds and get into owner finance because we're
Mhm.
seeing that it's a yeah, you make some money now, but there's just nothing in for the later. There's no cash flow. Like if you
Yeah,
stop, like there's no more money
yeah,
coming in.
that's
and
right.
and that's why like I always tell people when they want to build these massive like wholesale companies and all this, I'm like, you still you still got to think about investing. Like and I guess you had brought this up one time. What is your definition or the difference between investing and flipping? Like to you, it's not the same thing. Flipping
Not at
houses
all.
and stuff like that as being like a full fledged investor. So what's that for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, flipping is inventory. You think about the from IRS terms. You can look at it from how does the IRS classify flipping? Basically, a house, if you're flipping it, is inventory, and you got short-term capital gains, and you're taxed at a totally different rate. You don't have the benefits of an investor. An investor buys a house and sits on it for a long time period of time and cash flows it, or a stock. I mean, what's Warren Buffett's definition of investor? Is you buy something and hold on to it forever. I think that's what he was, something
Yeah.
like that. That's investing. You buy something and improving it and getting a return over a long period of time. Um, you know, a flip is inventory. Are we investing money into improving the property? Yes, but by definition of investing, it is not an investment. It is inventory that we are improving.
Correct.
So consider we're buying a whole bunch of parts from Home Depot and we're putting them into this house and selling the house. It's just
Right.
it's just a factory.
Yeah. Completely agree. Completely agree. I mean and that's the transition that we're making. I mean, not everybody can start there, and it's fine, but you
No,
gotta. I think as an investor, you gotta keep that in mind that wholesaling and flipping, that's not the final stone. Like, you need to
no.
progress to that cash flow and that long term wealth to actually have a
Yeah,
lifestyle.
absolutely. And that's why I think so raising private money is as important as learning how to market and close deals. Is how to raise private money. Another thing, I don't know if you had another question for me, but the other thing we want to get into is doing it creatively with seller financing. I don't know that I want to call subject to creative financing because it's not really; it's just a strategy. But seller financing combined with subject to, then I call that creative. But
So let's touch on that a little bit. What is your definition of creative financing? Because you talk about that a lot.
yeah,
How do you feel that people are not doing creative real estate the right way, and what is creative real estate to you?
well, let me give you an example. Probably the simplest way to put it. I had a lead last, I think it was November or December, and he was a guy that needed to sell a house. He was moving. He had two houses in this area. He was moving up to Dallas. He had the house he lived in and the one next to it. The one next to it was a rental property for him,
Hmm.
and but he was not willing to budge on his price. He said he wanted 130 grand for it or whatever it was, and we thought that the house was worth 150. And I'm thinking there's no margin in there for anything at all. And so this is the craziest, stupidest thing. Dumb lesson to learn. I don't know if it's dumb. It's a good story. So I marked this lead as dead. He was unreasonable in his valuation of the property,
Okay.
and he was determined to get his number. And so I marked him as dead. I hired an acquisitions guy shortly after that. And the acquisitions guy, he started by texting a bunch of old leads. And so he was just sending out a text message. He sent a text message to this dead lead, and he set up an appointment with this dead lead. And we structured before we went on the appointment. He used one of my tools that we use, and he structured an owner finance deal and presented to this guy $130,000, exactly what he wanted. $130,000, 100% seller financed, zero down, zero interest for 15 years. And this guy, my acquisitions guy, closed his first appointment by going on this deal that I marked dead because I forgot to process him through multiple offers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's kind of creative stuff, and that's cool stuff. And we get into more creative stuff because on that note that we created, it has a substitution of collateral in it. So I bought this house worth 150, and actually we put a tenant in there, 1550 a month tenant, and we're paying the seller, I don't know, it's 800 a month. What is 130 divided by 12 divided by 15? That's what we're paying them.
Yeah. I'll do that math in a minute.
Yeah, whatever that math is. And but I have a substitution of collateral clause in the note, so I can sell that house. I can sell it today for 150, probably 160. And if we sold it, call it round numbers, sold it for 150, we'll move that seller's note and deed of trust to another property that we have that is free and clear. So we'll encumber another one of our properties, and I'm going to walk out of closing with $150,000 of cash with 130 with basically $130,000 line of credit, zero interest for 15 years.
Oh man.
That's fun stuff right there.
Jesus. That is an amazing, holy crap.
Mhm.
That's valuable.
Yeah. Well, we don't do a lot of those, but we do, one or two a year. It's just fun. It's fun to get into that kind of stuff and think about those possibilities. Um, I've told the story of one of the best deals I ever did. Seller needed some cash, so we gave her. It was about a I don't know, $300,000 house, ARV. Needed some work. Needed $30,000 in work. I think we paid 180 for the house. I gave her 90 now. Yeah, 90 cash now. They came from a private lender, and then we gave her $90,000 second. She took back a $90,000 second lien, zero payments, zero interest for 9 years. So we walked out of closing because I put $130,000 first lien loan on the property from my private lender to pay her 90 plus some early. I took a little bit of profit early because there was so much equity, and we needed 20 grand to fix up the house. So and then we cash flowed that house. It was one of those rare houses, expensive houses, because of the terms that we created were so favorable. I rented this house for $1,900 a month for 2 or 3 years, and then paid her off early because I think we sold it after year 4 or something like that, but we paid her off at a discount rather than moving her second lien note to another property. We paid her off at a discount.
Wow.
And she was happy to get the money.
I bet.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's some of the creative fun stuff that I get a charge out of.
Well, John Barr, if you're watching, I think I'm gonna go work for Steve if he's hiring. I mean, holy crap! Yeah, I mean, these are things that you don't learn from, you know, gurus and shit like that. Like they teach you the basic, low level
Yeah.
stuff, and then go figure it out. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yep.
that is real. That's how you make real money in this business. It's not your
That's where.
typical buying cash, flipping, and call it a day.
Mm-hmm. No. No.
Wow. I mean, you still seriously had me stunned with the last one. Even John, he commented, he's like, "What? Explain that again?" Because it's something that we've never heard before. I mean, being able
Yeah.
to just do the owner finance with them, and then if you pay it off early, still keep that and roll it over. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that just, for whatever reason, based on every other stupid law they come up with, it doesn't sound legal. Because it's
Oh
like,
yeah. No.
that makes
Just
perfect
substitution
sense.
of collateral. Simple clause. Substitution of collateral.
Wow, what a simple clause, and you just got to know how to use it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so crucial.
And you got to do. I mean, you could take advantage of people with this kind of information, really.
Right.
And so that's probably why I haven't talked about it a lot, because it is powerful stuff, and you can cheat people with this kind of information. You could really do that guy wrong. Same with the other seller on that $300,000 house. I could do him wrong, but that's just not in my DNA.
Yeah.
And so, treat people right. Right. One of the key philosophies: do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Treat them right. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing what's right is always the right thing to do. Not many people just they like to practice that. That's why so much of the podcast and stuff that we like to do, it's not glamorous, because it's not glamorous. It's just done right. It's
Yeah.
just do it
Right.
right, so you don't
Yeah.
screw over the seller, you don't screw over the buyers, you don't screw
Right.
yourself over, because a lot of people don't realize that it's like the years keep going and shit catches up to you if you're doing the
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And and then now you got to change your name and move to another state. I mean, seen a lot of people do that. But wow, that was very 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 great tips. Now, your owner finances. So one way of financing them, it seems like you structure something with the seller, uh, and then you use private funds. On your private funds, how long are you trying to hold on to these properties for? Usually, when you borrow money to acquire them and to do an owner finance or even a rental with them.
Yeah, we practice the Burr model quite extensively. We'll
Okay.
buy a house, fix it up. We'll buy it with private money, right? And so what I teach or what I have taught to our private money lenders is we have these three models. These are the three models, and where does your money fit best within these three models? Basically, for them, it's two models, right? It's the fix and flip or the Burr. So their money is tied up for a short period of time, and then we resell or refinance the house. The owner finance stuff, the fix and I mean the note stuff, when we're buying the cheap properties, their money is going to be tied up for 6 to 8 years. And so there's different ways to utilize the money depending on what your lender wants. Some lenders want their money put to work and then they don't ever have to think about it again. Some people are good with the let's do this for 6 months at a time. I put my 150 grand or 200 grand out on this flip, and then I'll get it back in 6 months or 9 months or whatever the time frame is. So um, we structure the deals depending on the deal. And so if it's a owner finance deal, we do one of two things. We'll either amortize it over 6 to 8 years, and in those cases, we don't make a lot of cash flow. But in six years, my private lender's paid off, and then I got 25 years of note payments coming in. So, or we'll do interest only for 5 years, 5 to 7 years, interest only. In those cases, we cash flow really well, and then we'll sell the note. And there's there are note buyers out there. So they all don't, not all the note buyers out there are looking for 70 cents on the dollar. There are note buyers out there that will pay par or close to it. As a matter of fact, I got a couple that we're working on selling it close to par.
Very
Right.
nice. So when you're
Yeah.
working with your private money lenders or you're reaching out to them or you're starting to start that dialogue with them, what is it? How does that conversation kind of go? So what is it that they're looking for? What is it that you present to them as far as maybe your credibility or
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
how does that process go for somebody that's looking to find private money lenders?
Good question. Um, really good question. And the first thing to do, and the most important thing to do, is talk. Is flap your lips, right, to everybody you talk to. And you're not asking everybody that you talk to for money. You're telling them what you do. And so we tell people what we do. We borrow money to fix houses, and use other people's idle cash and retirement funds to fund our transactions, because real estate is a team sport. So we use other people's money to fund our transactions, and that just opens up some dialogue. Some people don't give a rip about it. Some people will go, really, what does that look like? And so then you just talk about what it looks like. But the most important thing you got to do is talk, and you got to network. Um, real estate clubs, great place to network. I've met many private lenders at real estate clubs that are willing to accept 8 to 10% return on their money. Um, so yeah, just talk. Last time I think I posted something on Facebook about our private lender return. I got 2 or 3 people reach out to me like, "Hey, let's have a conversation about what this looks like." It's really simple. You can talk about the first if you've never borrowed from private lender before, borrow from a hard money lender first. That's what I did. My first couple dozen deals were funded from hard money lenders, and I leveraged that experience to um, to uh, to talk with private guys about what they do, my and so or what we do, and give them examples. So I said the last deal that we did, we borrowed 80 grand on it or whatever, the number was. We borrowed 80,000 on it and used their money for 6 months and returned it back. They made a nice return on their money. So it's basically talking about um, what you've done before and or um, what your network has done.
Right.
This is what people that I'm working with have done. So
Yeah. eh,
I don't know that I have a great answer other than network and talk to everybody that you know
Right.
about it.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like a lot of people always assume everybody knows what they do, right? It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I post about it all the time. It's like you got to come
Yeah,
out and actually say what it is that you need, right? If you're needing money,
absolutely.
say that you're
Yeah,
needing money. If you need deals, say
yeah,
that you need deals because people just
yeah.
assume you got it all taken care of, right? Like you're fine,
Right.
you're killing it, you
Yep.
don't need anything. So
Yeah.
you just got to come out and say it.
And
Um,
I'm telling you, if they're your audience, if you're listening now, you need to go get Alan Cowgill's stuff.
mm,
He's phenomenal. He will teach you how to raise private money way, way more than I ever could. I've done it organically through my network. He'll teach you how to pull private public records and reach out to people
well,
the legal way.
yeah, and I mean that class, I believe it's like 30 or 40 bucks to attend the workshop this weekend.
Wow.
I mean,
Oh, it's
like if you're really taking this business serious, $30 or $40 to learn how to raise funds, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I'm
That's
signed
time
up.
well spent. I mean, the money is the nothing, but that is time well spent.
Yeah. So you were talking about networking, but right now we are where we are with the COVID and everything and all the lockdowns. How do you go about it now? I mean, are you just using social media? Like how do you recommend somebody that perhaps is very new to this business, so they haven't had the chance to build their network, right? And they found a great deal. Um, what's their next step to try to get that funding for that deal?
Well, if you don't have funding for the deal lined up prior to the deal,
Hmm.
then you need to contact me or Prime Homes, people with money, and just and get the deal done and leverage our or whoever's. I say that in jest a little bit.
Yeah.
Leverage some other people's expertise um, to get the deal done. If you have a deal, right? If you don't have a deal, go out and spend the time to craft a little bit of an elevator pitch. Um, and Alan will teach you how to do that as well. And I didn't mean to this be an advertisement for Alan. I get nothing out of that.
Well, we're gonna
But
have to let him know that we want a kickback.
yeah, yeah, we're talking about private money, and he's coming to town. Um, but in this environment is definitely different networking than it was 6 months ago. So there are plenty of online events, right? Get involved in those online events. Get involved with Facebook groups. Um, um, but really, it's about creating your network, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a hard money lender that you can talk to, go talk to one, and you don't need to have a social event to talk to a hard money lender, and they will tell you about what you need to do to get qualified. If you can't get qualified through a hard money lender, then leverage somebody else's experience and knowledge and connections and shortcut it. You're going to make a little bit of money, but you're going to shortcut the education process uh, massively.
Right. And not just shortcut it and learn the learning, that learning process and everything, but also I believe you can kind of absorb some of that credibility from saying, hey, have you done any deals? Yeah, I actually partnered with Steve Carlson, and we did a flip together and it went great.
Yep.
Now it's like, well, all right, so he partnered with somebody that knows their shit, so it's like
Yeah.
it makes them feel better when they work with
Mhm.
you, and that's what I tell people a lot of times. It's like partner with people just to get some of that credibility as well,
Yeah.
because I mean
No
you're
doubt.
gonna learn, I mean it's amazing to partner.
Yep.
Um, so going back a little bit to kind of talking about this whole COVID thing, how has it affected your business and everything that you do?
It's had an impact, no doubt about it. We're finding people are not wanting to move right now. So, but our I think I don't know how it's affected everybody else, but our pool of sellers that are willing to are able to move has dwindled, and so our volume has definitely decreased. We've seen a pretty significant pullback in deal flow. But at the same time, we've been trying different methods. When COVID hit, I pulled all direct mail. I've been a direct mail guy for years and years and years, spending $10,000 to $15,000 a month on direct mail, and that. But direct mail was getting extremely competitive prior to COVID, and our cost per deal was getting way high. So we pulled direct mail in April, and have gone with different mediums, and so different marketing mediums. And it's not a quick fix. Different marketing mediums have different skill sets, different uh, uh, lead nurturing requirements, and so we're having to learn that, and it's a whole different model. It's been a struggle for us, I'll be honest with you, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to learn it. We are bringing back direct mail. As a matter of fact, I just sent out an email today to our direct mail team to send this list out to mail, and we're picking up some different avenues. We're doing a little bit of PPC, and working on doing some Facebook retargeting ads, and um, that sort of thing that we haven't done before. So it's a whole new learning experience for us. We have to leverage a lot of other people's knowledge on how to do text messaging, how to do cold calling, all that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're different leads, right? You're doing outbound marketing. That's more of a nurture lead than somebody calling you off a PPC or a postcard that's ready to sell now.
Right. Yeah, at least they're interested, they're curious, something's going on,
Yeah,
as opposed to
yeah.
you reaching out and trying to,
Hmm.
pull it out of them, even if they don't even know what the hell is going on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I guess my curiosity is, you pulled away from direct mail. What
Hmm.
is it that you see? What kind of data you look at, or what is it that you're seeing in the market that's making you want to go back into direct mail? Is it that you changed the list entirely, or you're
Yeah. Hmm. Yep.
okay?
We changed our list entirely. I had been marketing to a big broad list, and there was a predictive list, so to speak. The people I bought the list from predicted that the people on our list might want to sell a house. And for years, that data worked really well, but it was a large list, right? Very large list, very expensive. And so we have niched our lists down, and we're starting with our stacked lists, people with multiple distresses, and then we're going to those maybe less stacked, but still have some sort of distress. So
Right.
that,
Right.
that's the major change.
Yeah. And what about, like, as far as your staff and everything? Have you had to let people go, or has it still been?
Uh, uh, might maybe should have, but we did have one gal that we let go early on. Um, she was probably a B performer,
Okay.
and so we did let her go. We knew that was going to happen eventually, and but other than that, we have not um, um, brought my wife back in to do some things. She had pretty much stepped aside, was ready to exit the business, and then we brought her back in to do some things. And we
She
did
appreciates it.
hire another part-time gal to handle some rental
Nice.
maintenance, rental uh, maintenance issues, tenant maintenance stuff. So
And could you talk briefly? Last time we had talked, you were telling me that you use this, I can't remember, but this software or application or something to gauge how good people are going to be before you hire them.
oh, yeah, 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 love it. It's called predictive index. and I don't know if it'll gauge how good they're going to be. It gauges how effective they will be in a particular role. For example, an acquisitions guy, it's basically a sales position, right? And so people that are good in sales have a different profile than a guy that wants to look at data all day long and manipulate numbers and and do calculations, right? So they're two different skill sets. Their brains function different ways. So love predictive index. I will not hire somebody today without sending them through a PI test. And so it's not really a test, it's an assessment.
And how do people get that?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I have because I'm in a mastermind. One of the guys in the mastermind, well, has offered up his services to our entire group, and he is a predictive index guy. I think if you go hire your own, I don't know I don't know much about it, but if you go to predictive index, or I don't even know if predictive index .com is a thing. I honestly don't know. I just know that's the name of the assessment. Um, it's probably going to cost you $7,000 or something like that for a year. So it's not cheap.
Wow.
But the value of my network has allowed us to get plugged into the predictive index test, which is extremely valuable at a fraction of that cost. So again, it's being connected in the real estate space has allowed that cost to come down a little bit. And it's not that I'm connected; it's just I'm part of this mastermind. So I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you, John. I don't know how to send you off to get one of your potential hires tested through that predictive index.
I'll do a little research and see what I find.
Yeah, and if you find something, please let your team know, and I'll ask around a little bit as well. I say team, let your network know, because it's valuable. There's another one kind of similar called the culture index.
Okay.
It identifies I think how well a person will fit in your specific company culture, right? Because we all have a unique culture in our business, and so there's that one. It's like the disc on steroids is what I like to think of it as, and it's super simple and really amazingly accurate.
Well, I mean, $7 grand a year it sounds like a lot, but it's also expensive when you're hiring the wrong people over and over
Yeah,
and over. I mean,
right,
it'll
right.
become 10 times that. And if you can just hire the right person, I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
can make you 10 times that, right? So,
No doubt about it.
when hiring and everything, I think it's a service that if it's that good, it'll pay for itself for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's people out there that will offer their services for hire at a much lower rate than that. Gary Harper, I don't know if you know that name,
Mm-mm.
but he would probably do it for you for free or cheap to get connected
Oh.
with it.
And can you say what mastermind you're a part of?
That one is Leadership Boardroom, Sean McCloskey's group.
Okay.
Sean is a great American, fantastic individual. Um, so yeah, that's Leadership Boardroom.
Yeah, definitely. I love masterminds. I'm a huge fan. I'm
Yeah.
part of a few of them with some really, really smart people. And the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that
Much.
we talk about and the stuff that we share and the way it
Mm-hmm.
opens your mind, because it's just like this conversation that we're having with you, just a few things that you throw out there gets my wheels going on other deals that I have or had that I could have restructured that
Mm-hmm.
now I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
going to go back and call them if they haven't sold. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I got an idea for you, because
Yeah.
it's just it's amazing being a part. Like anybody that can join a mastermind, I
Mm-hmm.
strongly recommend it because it's been nothing but help for us.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about the creative deal structure and you talked about all of that, that was incredible information. How does somebody go about learning stuff like that? Like, what is there a book you read? I mean, aside from like just experience or just partnering with you? Like, how does somebody go about just learning that way of thinking?
I learned it from a coach, and he was a real estate coach. That's the bottom line. I don't know that there's a book to read on it. I've read a lot of real estate books back in the day. I don't know that I read specific real estate books today, but I read. Matter of fact, I got a great one here. Dare. It's backwards. It's
They're
called Dare to Lead. Brene Brown. Phenomenal book. That's more what I'm reading today. But I got a lot of books on the shelf. Um, I got that bookshelf right there full of books. I got this bookshelf over here full of books.
yeah.
So clearly, reading is a great way to get the mind thinking on leveraged real estate and how to leverage it smartly. Um, so um, I don't know. Again, it's being coached by the right people and not being afraid to ask and knowing the right questions to ask. Right? I mean, it's simple. When I missed out on that deal in November, that my acquisitions guy bought in February or January, it was because I didn't ask the right question.
Right.
And so just asking the right questions and having the right conversation um, uh, is uh, kind of foundational to all that.
All right. Well, I mean, maybe you should, with all your knowledge, put something together there.
I've thought about it. As a matter of fact, I started creating a course and then I kind of shelved it
Yeah.
for a while. We're probably going to bring it back sometime soon, but I don't know what the interest is. I actually it's probably pretty high. But if I do it, I got to really, really, really commit to doing it.
Yeah.
And with the COVID thing and the shift in the business, it's caused a little bit of, we got to tweak and we got to crank on the business to get it flowing, get it working right, get the team operating on all cylinders, and have a more predictable business than what it has been over the last few months before I can go out and start giving my all to a coaching or a mastermind program. But I'm thinking about it, and if there's enough interest, I will definitely do it sooner rather than later. I just don't know what.
Well, for those of you listening, put "I do" in the comment section if you be interested in Steve putting a course like this together. Because I mean, shoot, just with the few tips that you shared today, if there's a whole course on that.
Yeah,
I'm in there.
yeah,
That's information that it's probably gonna take me years and a bunch of flawed deals for me to figure out. You know.
yeah.
So, but,
Might be. We haven't even talked about the fun, creative stuff you can do with notes, with seller finance notes.
oh
So,
man. Well, we're already
yeah.
over an hour, and I don't want to keep holding
Oh
you up,
shoot,
but we're definitely gonna do a part two. Told you, time flies when you have fun on this.
that's true.
But I do have one question from uh, Will Pritchett. So
It
he
will.
says, Steve Carlson. He says, you always add so much value. How many times do you contact a lead before removing them from your list? At what point are you wasting your marketing dollars?
Um, After they tell you to take me off their list, and after about 12 contacts. So, in sales, in sales, most deals are made between the fifth and the 12th contact, and so there is no. I mean, on a generic list, if I have a list, for example, the list we sent out today, I told the guy to mail it 6 times, once a month, 6 times. Then we're not going to mail them. But if a lead calls me off that list, I'm going to reach out to that lead indefinitely. I'm going to put them on a drip follow-up campaign and call them until they tell me to take them off the list. So it's basically the buy or die philosophy. If they reach out to us, if it's somebody that's on a tax delinquent list or whatever, and you mail them 6 times and they haven't contacted you, and if you mail them, you call them, you text them, you do all those 3 things, then after the sixth, it's we haven't found much return. But the first through the third is really good return. They get a dwindling ROI after the fourth attempt to mail.
Okay. Wow. Well, makes a lot of sense. All right, sir. Well, like I said, I don't want. We're already well over an hour, so I don't want to hold you up. You probably have plans with the family. Will Pritchett
Mm-hmm.
says thank you for the answer. Um,
Enjoyed it, John. It was a great time.
Well, I'm very happy you enjoyed it. Like I said, this was. I was very excited for this interview because I mean, I really admire everything that you do, and the level of knowledge you have is just astonishing. I mean, I know the stuff that you talked about now is, a pimple compared to all the stuff that you probably know. And we did get a ton of responses of people saying I do. They all want the course, so you got some pressure on you there.
Oh boy.
But
Well, once
definitely
we get it launched, I will reach back out to you and we'll talk about what that looks like.
that would be awesome, and I would love to get a hold of you, get with you and see how we can do part two with the whiteboard and maybe break a few of these strategies down a little bit.
Oh man. You get my juices flowing now.
All
I
right.
love numbers.
Good, good. I love numbers. I love examples, and I know John Barr is gonna be excited because he's the same way. Like he's just that
Mm,
idea blew his mind, and he wanted to hear it again. So
yeah.
charts, numbers, really
Yeah.
breaking it down. We would love to do that. Maybe shoot, maybe we
Yeah.
can have you in the office, or we can go to your office, and
Oh,
we'll set up the
yeah.
camera and we'll do it there.
Man, that is really exciting. I would love to do that. We'll do some. We'll map out, do some case studies for some sub twos, some owner financed, some rental BRRs, BRRs, whatever. We'll throw a few case studies out there, and of course a couple case studies on how to make 100 grand off of a $35,000 purchase.
Yes, yes, I'm very intrigued with that one. But sir, again, thank you so
Mhm.
much. And we're still getting people commenting that they even want one-on-one mentorship with you. So you've got a lot of interest here, man. So
Thanks.
anybody that's interested, I am gonna put Steve's information, how to reach him on Facebook and email. Make sure to look at that, and on our website, it's gonna be on our show notes and everything. So if you have any questions or you have any deals that you want to work with Steve, do you buy everywhere in Texas or just San Antonio?
I I buy in the 4 or 5 counties around us, so I don't
Okay.
go everywhere. I mean, not that I wouldn't, but I definitely don't want to buy outside three. Well, I bought a house in Killeen not too long ago,
All right.
so
So if the
I'll
deal
go up
makes
that far.
sense, yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Very good. Well, sir, again, thank you so much for doing this with us. It's been amazing, amazing, amazing information. And I can't wait to do this again with you.
cool. Looking forward to it.
All right. And to everybody watching at home, thank you so much for watching, joining us today. I hope you guys have a ton of value. I took a bunch of notes, so I'm going to be sharing my notes with you as well because he shared some stuff that just seriously just blew my mind. Stuff that I've never heard before. I mean, it's very impressive the stuff that Steve knows. So I strongly recommend you go back, listen to this again. Again, we do this on our podcast, so you can listen to it while you're at the gym and stuff. Listen to it again because there's so much information in this hour that you need to go through it a couple times. I know I will. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be putting out these episodes continuously. We have a lot of content, so just check us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channels. Show some love, some support. And we'll keep bringing you guys as much value as possible. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. That's what we're here for. So thank you for listening and have a great day.